Hello, everybody. You're very welcome to another episode of The Change Room. As you can see, we have dragged Mark Rossiter off the golf course with the reopening of the courses this week. Did you get out for a wee game, Mark?
I was out with a couple of lads from the airport. We went out for a little game of pitch and putt this morning. So, yeah, I would have done this a couple hours ago with you, but I went golfing instead. So, priorities.
Were you hitting it straight?
No.
I was the same. Went to the driving range last night now, and I think there might be a few windows on houses going to be a bit fragile today. Nice to get back into it, though.
Still happy out. Like I know that the weather at home isn't great today. Talking to the brother, but it's still nice up here. So I've avoided the rain so far. So it's all good.
Well, good stuff. But before we get into the weekend's action, you mentioned your brother there, so I have to issue a formal apology. After the last time you were on, he texted me on Twitter to say that there's only one Rossi, that your nickname is Chops, and he's the real Rossi. I did, in fact, know that, but he got on to me, and Ian isn't the man you want to fall out with.
Well, I don't anymore, to be honest. We're too old for that, Craig. He's 40 now, so yeah, we won't be falling out now, you know.
Good stuff, Mark. Well, if we're kicking off the weekend action, first defeat for Sligo Rovers this season against the Derry side. What did you think of the game?
Tight, cagey. Derry were well drilled, played their way, and Sligo allowed them to play their way. Joe and Doe made many comments about, Sligo need to up the tempo, and they didn't. They didn't have a player on the particular night that grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck. And when it's touch and go like that in a 0-0 game, or it's an even game, you can get a penalty decision against you and you get your first loss of the season. For me, the worrying thing for me was I done the commentary for the game in Dalymount, and after a half an hour they stopped playing. Until David Cawley came on, I think it was the 71st minute, I had said after 53, 54 minutes, I said, get David Cawley on. I said, they're dropping too deep. And Johnny Kenny was getting so isolated up top on his own that even if the ball went up to him and he could have got a hold of it, there's nobody near him. And you're looking at Romeo. Figueroa was still on at the time, and Jordan Gibson on the right. They're so far away from Johnny. He was completely isolated. So for that spell from 33, 34 minutes to 70 minutes, they literally just sat back, no tempo. And like I'm there, I suppose you're just trying not to be overcritical of it, and at that stage or whatever, with Liam Burgess scoring, I suppose just after half time, there was no change. They still played at the same pace. And they got the victory, which was a great win in Phibsborough. I think Cawley changed the game that night when he came on. So to get the 3-1 victory, but they carried that pace of play for that 35 minutes into the game against Derry, and they got turned over. Whether or not it's the new manager there with Higgins taking over and stuff like that you get a little bit of a bounce with the players. But I'm not saying that Sligo done enough to say get a draw, but they lost the game, and I just be worried that it rolls into it, that they're starting to be a little bit one-paced when they've got the quality there to up the tempo, and they're not.
Would there be a slight concern, again, you don't want to get too far ahead of yourselves, the league this year, the way it is, teams are going to take points off each other when it's least expected, and that's just the way it's going to be. Is there maybe a slight concern that we see maybe a team that were showing signs of playing 3 games within the week, and maybe would that concern you maybe going forward when that situation might arise again, particularly maybe European competition or whatever it may be?
Yeah, like it's going to be an issue, and that's where Shamrock Rovers and Dundalk for years have been fine, because they've got, I suppose 2 starting 11s, so they can chop and change, and Stephen Bradley has changed his team the whole time. And even Bowes the other night, like they swapped 3 of their back 4 from Sligo that played, and Keith Ward came in and Keith Buckley came in. So they'd made 5 changes from the team that started against Sligo. So, you're just hoping, if you're Sligo, that it's not one of your key men like John Mahon gets injured and out for a long period, Greg Bulger for a period, Romeo or Jordan Gibson. You're hoping that the boys that have done really well from the start of the season, that they don't. But over the course of a season, especially when you have 3 games in a week, if you're relying on your set 11, it's very strenuous on them that 7 days you're playing, 270 minutes of football. That's where you can get your little niggles and you're out for 3 weeks and, this and like worst case scenario, your season, then a stop start as a player for the rest of the season. So you just be hopeful that it's just one of them weeks. And I suppose it's not as bad as say Finn Harps, who picked up 1 point in the 3 games, let's say,
And from a Derry City point of view, I wouldn't say the writing was on the wall, but I think every Sligo Rovers fan feared the worst when they heard that Raf was coming in as assistant manager, Robbie Higgins. It just seemed like it was something bad could go wrong for Sligo Rovers, and it did. We obviously wish the very, very best of luck to Raf at Derry City. But how have you seen that appointment, and where do you see Derry City going from here?
I think you look at Derry have put full confidence in him to give him a 3.5-year deal. It shows their intent to stick by this man that they've a lot of faith in, was a great servant to the club. I would be, as a football fan and a big fan of the league, I would be annoyed that Dundalk didn't move for him earlier. Personally, anybody who knows Rory Higgins, I was chatting about this yesterday, but Rory Higgins, Stevie O'Donnell are 2 of the most football orientated men I have ever met. If they're not playing, they're talking about it, let's say. They're very meticulous. They like pulling apart formations and the way people play and stuff like that. So from a Derry point of view, it's a brilliant appointment. He's young. He's on his pro license, so he's got all the qualifications so that he ticks the boxes, let's say. He's very opinionated and he's strong-willed as well. And it's like you'll play his way, and if you don't, and it'll be total football, like because Higgins was a ball player, wasn't athletically blessed, but he was a fabulous player. So he'll want his teams to play like the Derry team under Stephen Kenny brand of football, let's say. High intensity, like love the football, keep a hold of it, don't give it away. So I'm excited to see what he does. He's got a lot of youth players. I think William Fitzgerald's a talent up there, so I'll be interested to see what happens over. I think this season form will be just keep them in the league. Anything beyond that, brilliant. Keep them in the league and then look to build over the next 3 years.
So do you reckon Dundalk have missed the boat there when not going for
Yes.
it? But surely. No, and that's no disrespect to Derry City, but if Dundalk came in calling with the squad that's available and finances, that surely would have been an easy decision to make. Why would you might not have gone for him?
Possibly. I don't know. You see, it all falls on Jim Magilton, and Jim Magilton, if the old guard was there and it wasn't Jim Magilton as director of football, they may have moved for Rory, because they know, like, if Stephen has brought him into the international setup, he has a huge wealth of knowledge from a footballing point of view, and to go from an opposition analysis to assistant manager to now a manager, he's a great football brain. I do think that they've missed out on. To me, the only appointment would have been Rory Higgins or Stevie O'Donnell. Stevie is building something at Pats, and Rory has gone to Derry, so I think they've missed the boat with both of them. But I don't think Jim would have taken either of them, to be honest. Okay. Yes, I don't know. I don't know Jim, so I can't speak for him. But yeah, I think if you're looking for young, enthusiastic, who know the club, they would have been the 2 that I'd go for.
Is that because of maybe the character or the impression that we have of Jim, that he's maybe old school, kind of tough, whereas Rory might be one of the newer generation coming through, a different style than maybe Jim was used to working with there?
Well, maybe, but as I said to you, Rory's very opinionated, and if you think he's not a tough boy, he'll gladly make hard decisions. And if you don't buy into what he's selling, then good luck to you. He'll wish you all the best and say that's it. Some things will fit, some things won't, and that's it. It's nothing personal. It's business, and you need to take sentiment out of it. Rory has an idea of what he wants to do, and you'll either fit into that or you won't.
Okay, well, as I said, we wish the 2 of them the best of luck at Derry for the season ahead. We were hoping that luck might start after last Saturday night, but obviously not. You mentioned Stevie O'Donnell moving on. St. Pat's 2, Finn Harps 0. Rossi, are we now looking at a genuine title contender in St. Pat's?
No, I don't. They've started well. I think Pats and Sligo are in the same bubble. that if they can keep their squad fit and well, you know, and you see my point, the way that the league has started with regard to Sligo, on paper, that's a game that they should have won. They didn't have a great performance against Bows, but they ground out the win. So I'd be like, that's very positive. But then they carried that into the Derry game and they lost the game. Now they're going against Strada, and it's going to be a very tough game because Timmy's team is well drilled as well. You know, they held Shamrock Rovers to a draw up until the 95th minute. So they're a gamey bunch that are playing for their manager. So, you know, I just hope the Sligo would bounce back with a performance and with the 3 points, you know, at the weekend. You know, yeah, that's that's I don't want to be too critical, as I said, because they've done phenomenally well at the start, and I think they're probably a lot better off than they thought they would be. So yeah, I think they're in that bubble. If you can keep the nucleus of your team, like Pats and Sligo, then they'll be good. I just think from a Pat's point of view, it was a very, very good signing with Adam Coughlin, albeit that Sligo lost him. I think he's a fabulous player.
Yeah, disappointed for Finn Harps to maybe drop points again, but be it St. Pat's would have been favourites going into that game.
They deserved it, to be fair. I watched the game and Pats were the better team. They really were. Like Lennon is really good in midfield. He is the unsung hero of that Pats team. You know, the likes of Desmond and stuff have kept it really well. Birmingham's reinvented at left back. You know, he didn't play much last year and now he's back playing again. And they're just a really well-oiled machine at the minute. But again, it's only the start of the season, and look, at injuries will take their toll. But if they can avoid them, as I said, in these areas, like with the likes of Chris Forrester, I put Forrester and Bulger in the same bracket there. You know, there'd be a huge loss to any team. So, you know, if you can keep them fit and well, then you know you've got every chance. But I don't see either of them as title contenders. I think Shamrock Rovers are out there on their own because their squad is ridiculous.
Okay, well, that brings us to our next game, the Dublin Derby at the weekend. Shamrock Rovers and Bohemians. We get the controversial penalties at the end. What did you think of the game, Rossi?
For somebody watching, I thought, look at it, the game was exceptional. It had everything. I think a draw would have been a fair result. I think with regards to the penalty, I think McLaughlin got it wrong. It wasn't a penalty. And more to the point, I can't believe that he gave a red card because there was nothing cynical about it. And somebody made the point to me there that it was like Liam Burt ran away from Sean Gannon at the start of the second half and Gannon just sized him. And it's a yellow card. I know that there's covering defenders, blah, 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 blah. But, you know, Gannon made no attempt for the ball in any shape or form. He just sized him because he was running into the box. And, you know, that is what it is. But I look at there's the whole thing with having VAR and not having VAR. You know, that wouldn't, I don't think, nobody I have heard speak about it apart from Stephen Bradley has said it's a penalty. You know, Scales was very diplomatic. He got man of the match in the game and he was very diplomatic and he turned around and said, look, from Shamrock Rovers' point of view, we're going to say it's a penalty. And from Bowles' point of view, they're going to say it's not a penalty. Anybody who was impartial has all said it's not a penalty. So I think that says it all, really.
Yeah, Bowles were unlucky. There was a couple of good chances in the game. I know Georgie Kelly, I think he hit the poster. He had a good chance. I think Aaron Green is down for missing the season when he went through one-on-one. I don't know what was going on there, but was that decision in the referee's mind from the Sean Gannon incident? Do you reckon that might be part of the reason why the penalty was given?
No, I don't. I think, look, like we're all fortunate that we have the replays and you can have a look at it again. And McLaughlin, to me, is the best referee in the league and makes very, very few bad decisions. And I can understand at first glance why he did it and why he gave it. But unfortunately, to me, it's the wrong decision. But, you know, in real time in that game, it's unfortunate because it means the Finnerty is out for definite one game, unless they appeal it. I'm sure they will appeal it, but he's definite one game. But, you know, they lost the game when they deserved at least a point out of it. You know, I thought Bowes, I after seeing them against Sligo, I couldn't see them putting in that performance, you know, and they were very, very good, very good.
Another derby at the weekend, one of your former clubs, Dundalk and Drogheda. I think this is a kind of highly anticipated game because Drogheda have been going very well under Tim Clancy, and obviously Drogheda's problems have been well illustrated. A big 3 points for Dundalk at the weekend, Rossi.
Yeah, and look at like David McMillan, fabulous. He didn't have a great time down at Sligo, but he's a fabulous lad and has done really well for Dundalk, and he's a very good player, and if you give him chances, he'll score goals. And the South Korean popping in with a goal as well. Look, at Dundalk are littered with quality as well, so it's just a question of will they click. There's too many new faces for my liking from all around the globe that we said on the last podcast. So I'd like them to make an appointment of a manager that has the required badges to come in and steady the ship. Like, make a statement of intent and give him a 3-year deal to allow him to work through this difficult process that they have at the minute, and maybe get them back on a footing that they were, because I think the league needs, I think they need, over the last couple of years, they need Dundalk. I'd love to see a Cork City team that were excellent. Derry flying on all fronts. Sligo, they'd be rocking as well. Like, so that you have these stadiums with thousands of people seeing a good brand of football.
You put yourself in the boots of one of the Dundalk players now, Mark. Who would be your ideal choice to come in as manager and get this thing back on track? Because the talent is there. We've talked about it before. It might take time to blend, but who would be your choice as manager to come in?
Oh, somebody to come in.
Obviously, names have been mentioned. Jerry Little's been mentioned. There's been a couple of names thrown around the hat. Or will they bide their time on this instead of rushing into it?
I think they will, because like with Jim, he has the required badges to do stuff. So, to keep the team. To be honest, in this particular league, with the brand of football that they were used to playing, like a 4-3-3 and stuff like that, I don't honestly know, because, like, I suppose when you look at the managers in that have gone through the years, Stephen Kenny obviously not available. Pat Fenlon has no, he has no desire to go back and manage. He's the director of football at Linfield. So you'd be looking at people that will command respect straight away. And to be honest, it might be a case that you have to go over the water and get somebody. Ger Little was there at Sligo, and he was okay. I wouldn't have said that it was successful or unsuccessful, but he's just after getting a job with the IFA under 17s, I think. So, it's Dundalk is a bit of a poison chalice, because that particular town now expects. So, you're going to be, if you get a bad run of results, like, you're going to be under pressure. So I think the one thing that the players are lacking is the crowd. I'm not saying the crowd will get them going, but the crowd will hop off them, and get them going in a way that look at, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the fire, kind of thing, So they're an unforgiving bunch now. They weren't initially, but Stephen had brought that so much success to them that they will get behind you in spades. And at the minute, it's just not clicking. It's not happening. I don't know. I don't envy anybody going in there, to be honest. It's going to be a tough one for them, because it's not something that's been going on for the last couple of weeks. It's been going on for months and months. It's over a year at this stage, where it's been a circus. So it's probably not a great place to be around.
It's an interesting one, because opinions are so split on Dundalk at the minute. Whereas you said it's a poison chalice, and a lot of people are of that kind of that sort of thought, and other people kind of think with the talent that's on display, it might only be a matter of going in and knitting it together. So, I mean, are the top managers available? Are they going to want to go in and work under these circumstances now?
Look, if it was me, I'd love to go in at that. I jump at the chance. Absolutely, I have no badges whatsoever. None. Just badges that I buy at golf courses. No, if it was me, I'd love to go in and work with them. But some people will go, well, it's iffy enough. So I'd be curious to know the boys that have been there for a long time. The shout was with certain players, maybe last year, like Sean Gannon, went a bit stale. He looks reinvented here. Sean Hoare looks a completely different player, having left Dundalk and gone to Shamrock Rovers. I don't know, he seems quicker. He seems everything far more confident for Shamrock Rovers. So I don't know. Look, you'd have to go in and I suppose get a feel of the place and get a feel of what the dressing room's like. But I think it'd be fine to go in there personally. They're a professional bunch. They're all on professional contracts. If you have an issue with it or you step out of line, they can be sanctioned within the club. So I'd love the chance to work with them, but as I said to you, there's so many new faces that it's going to take them time to knit really well.
Okay, and the final game was a massive game at the foot of the table. Waterford taking all 3 points. Are they two teams you expect to be down around the bottom come the business end of the season?
Yes. Like well, I suppose look, you've got Dundalk that we're saying is a bit of a circus. You're looking at in the media, then Waterford's a bit of a circus as well. So I don't know. You've got arguably one of the best keepers to ever play in the league, not in the squad, and he's fit. So there's obviously a problem there with players and management, and experience as well. But then you have like Longford, in fairness, they played against Shamrock Rovers and put in a great shift and probably deserved the draw. And Sean Gannon hits a deflected shot and it goes in the 93rd minute or whatever it was. So it's probably just taking the wind out of them. But if Longford want to be okay, they have to beat the teams that could potentially be around them, like, Drogheda, which they got beaten 4-0 by. Now they've played Waterford and got beaten by them as well. So, they need to start picking up wins, because I suppose getting a draw, it's great. I suppose you're 2-0 down against Bowes at half-time in Dalymount and you get a draw, it's 2-2. That's fine. But, you need to start winning, because if it continues on that way, you can see like something getting separated, because Dundalk down there, they're not going to finish down there. That they're going to start winning and picking up games because they're capable of beating anyone. So that they're not going to be holding hands with you down there. But the likes of Waterford, you need to be beating them, because they look kamikaze-ish at the minute, to be honest.
Okay, well, we have a big weekend ahead this weekend, Ross, because it's a double week for the bank holiday. We'll probably know a lot more after this weekend. I think that's the end of the first round of fixtures. But as usual, we're going to get a couple of predictions off you. We'll do the Friday night games. And maybe we'll get you on next week to review the Monday games. Pats and Longford.
Pats.
Go Pats, home win. Drogheda and Sligo.
I'm going to go for a Sligo win.
Yeah. That's going to be a tough game.
Very tough. Very tough. Like they've got experience there with the likes of Dane Massey and stuff, who, for the best part of 10 years has been winning stuff. So, he'll be trying to, I suppose, get them going that way. The only time that I seen Drogheda playing was against Derry, and it was a draw game, but it's not that they would have set the world alight for me that particular night. But then to hold Shamrock Rovers, they might be very, very strong in United Park, or Head in the Game Park. So it'll be a difficult game. But if Sligo just seemed to me like to have another gear, and that's the annoyance when they don't use it, because Gibson and Bulger doing their little 1-2 diagonal ball, and Byrne scores. Was Mark Byrne, wasn't it?
Mark Byrne scored against Bowes,
yeah, like, and literally just out of the blue. So to have quality to do it. So I'm going to go for a Sligo one.
Yeah. Bowes, Derry, Dalymount. Another tough
Draw.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Waterford and Dundalk. Waterford at home.
Dundalk.
And Harps and Shams. Shams had a tough time up there last year. The cup. They were 2-0 down, weren't they? But they come back.
Yeah. No, Shamrock Rovers. Shamrock
Rovers win.
Yeah.
Okay, that was fairly conclusive. You might have seen, Mark, when we were advertising today, I put up a little question box and asked anyone if they had a couple of questions for you and stuff like that. And the amount of references that came in about Robert Perez and the game at Highbury and the old pictures. What do you remember from that night, Mark?
Everything.
Small
literally.
Tunnel.
Huh?
The small tunnel in Highbury and everything, like being able to play. Yeah. What was it like going out on the pitch?
I can remember Howard Wilkinson staring at me before the game, because like I wasn't nervous or anything. I was just excited to get out onto the pitch. So I just had this big smile on my face, like I couldn't wait to get out, and him staring at me like this because he knew it was my debut. So I can remember everything. I can remember the 90th minute. I think it's one of the funniest things that happened to me in football. I don't know if you can bleep things out on this, can you?
No, we don't have to. We can leave it in.
Well, it's
I'll bleep it out if it's that bad.
So I was taking a throw in and it's injury time, and like I picked it up and I was over the far side of the ground, and anybody who was in Highbury, like the seats are like kind of built into the ground, so the people who are in the front seat are literally eye level with the pitch. So anyways, I'm picking up the ball anyways, and it's like 91st minute and there's 3 minutes of injury time. So I go to throw the ball and then I just stop, bounce the ball, go to throw it, and then I stop. And then all of a sudden I just heard at the side of me, goes, "Throw the ball, you fat." And I just looked around into the crowd, and this one fella standing up pointing at me goes, "Yeah, you, throw it, you fat." And I started laughing. I just started laughing on the side of the pitch, like. So yeah, that's one of my favorite moments of the night. Like, really was. It was mental. It was just, you couldn't write it. We were down. What was it? We were down 1-0 at half time, and we won. 1-0, 2-0 down at half time, and we won 3-2. So you couldn't have scripted it. Like, it was perfect night. Really, it was. Yeah,
that was back brilliant. In the days where Highbury was a fortress. That around the eras of the great Arsenal.
Yeah, but like when you look at what their starting team could have been, like Perez wouldn't have played in that game, but it was his first competitive game back after tearing his cruciate. So Perez played, but then I suppose bit part players you would have had. Kanu played up front with Francis Jeffers when it could have been Bergkamp and Henry. You had Giovanni van Bronckhorst was in midfield, who would have been probably the first substitution that Wenger would have brought on to play in there. Jermaine Pennant on the right wing. Moritz Volz was playing, who went to Fulham, but Oleg Luzny, Igor Stepanov, Stuart Taylor, I think, was in goals. So, like, I suppose when you look at the team that could have played on that particular night, like Ashley Cole, Lorraine, there would have been a completely different outfit, but they played a second team and we played a second team, and we won 3-2 on the night, thankfully.
It's one of those stadiums, though, looking back, obviously growing up, and I'm a Man United fan, so I don't say it too lightly, but the old Highbury under lights, the pitch must have been just like a carpet to play on.
Unreal. And do you know what it is? Like, again, when we speak about attention to detail, we were allowed to train on Arsenal's pitches at the training ground, and every pitch at the training ground is the same size as Highbury. So they would have had 16 football pitches that were geared to Highbury, so that if you're hitting a corner you're hitting a corner with, you're hitting a corner that you'd be hitting in Highbury, the same distances, everything. So the attention to detail with that was ridiculous. No, it really, really was. It was a dream come true.
I know we're going to look back on things from the past in a special episode, maybe in a couple of weeks, or so I don't want to turn into This Is Your Life, but there was a lot of questions that came in, so I'll be in trouble if I don't ask it. From your time in England, and then you came back, you had a very successful career. You had the league, you had a double opposed, had you?
Two doubles in 2008, but it was the League Cup in Setanta in 2009 with the league.
Is there any player? And again, I'm putting you on the spot. Is there one player that you played with or against throughout your career, be it the Ireland underage, in the UK or in Ireland, that you just thought, whoa, is the standout?
Yeah, when we went to the European Championships in Israel with Brian Kerr, we played against Portugal in our first group game. And this would have been, when Portugal's team would have had Hugo Viana and players like that in it. But a fella who used to he played on one of the wings with Sporting Lisbon, Ricardo Quaresma. Yeah. He played right wing in the first half. So then he came over. I was playing right back. So he came over to the left wing in the second half. We were 1-0 down at half time and the game finished 1-0. But like, the ball had come out to him and it was 100-degree heat. So like you're already struggling. And the ball came out to him and he done this trick. Like, so he went as if he was going to pass it inside and then gave it a little flap with his toe. But as he passed it, I tried to read the pass and he flapped it. And then all of a sudden, like I just fell over because I couldn't move my legs anywhere. So I just fell over. I just remember Brian Kerr coming over to me after the game and he didn't say anything. He tortured me for 45 minutes, but he didn't set up anything. We didn't concede anymore, but Brian Kerr just came over and literally just put his arm around me and just gave me a little pat, like as if, you done your best. Like, you know, he was the best young player I've ever seen.
Well, okay. Just before we go, talk to me about Brian Kerr and playing under him as a youth player and what he was like and how big an influence he had on your career.
But in fairness, look at anybody who's worked under Brian and Noel. They were, I suppose, like they could manufacture anything. I can remember when the same tournament we were in Israel and we go for a walk in an evening time when it was very cool and stuff. But out of nowhere, you'd have a football and you could be working in an abandoned car park. You could be working on throw-ins, you know, and then you'd go back into the hotel in reception and Noel would pull out a guitar and you're just like having a sing-song. Like I can remember when we went to the European under-19s, we finished joint third and England were in our group. And like England's team, like Dean Ashton was playing up front with Carlton Cole, Jerome Thomas, Jermaine Pennant, Jermaine Jennings in midfield. Like their team was ridiculous. And we were 2-0 down at half time. We beat them 3-2. And I'll never forget, Ben Clark was the centre back, but he was at Sunderland with me, you know, and we'd be chatting and stuff like that. And they'd be walking out from having food and we're in reception and Nola just whip out the guitar and we're having a sing song, literally a sing song in reception. And they'd be looking to themselves going, you know, like that, giving it the whole English thing where, you know, headphones on. But it just showed that they were a bunch of individuals and regardless, they tried to galvanize us as a squad. Like, and, you know, that's what it literally was the whole time. It was no matter what squad you were with, it was good crack. Noel O'Reilly, football genius. He'd pick apart everything. Look, had gone before his time in fairness, but, you know, Brian is one of the jewels of Irish football that, you know, that we've had. You hear him when he's talking about games and stuff like that. He makes it very simplistic. His wording is very Irish. So he's a great character. But I feel like they could have utilised him a lot more, and he should have some kind of role within the organisation. So it's a shame that he doesn't. Well, thanks for I've kept you long enough today, Rossi. I'd say you're dying to get back. I'm off the golf course now. I'm all right, you know. Thanks very much for joining us today. And we shall chat to you in the next couple of weeks. Perfect. Pleasure. Cheers, Mark.
EJMenswear.com. Shop Calvin Klein, Tommy Hilfiger, Farah. EJMenswear.com. Shop Razvaran, Ted Baker, Gaunt. EJMenswear.com. Shop Lion Scott, G-Star, Superdry. Shop top brands. Shop Irish owned. Shop EJMenswear.com.